For Liverpool fans, the magical night, the one night in Istanbul, May 25th, 2005, where we ended up winning the Champions League for the first time in many a season. I believe it would have been in 20-odd years. Back in Europe, winning European silverware was fantastic. I was in year 12. I would have been 16, just a few days shy of 17 at the time, seeing that Champions League final on a Wednesday morning, because that was before the Champions League was played on Saturday nights. It was played on a Wednesday for some bizarre reason, and it was peak, absolutely peak. Fantastic day. Rafa Benitez was the manager. First season at Liverpool, winning the Champions League. What a sight to behold. He was on the Overlap on their Stick to Football podcast with Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, Ian Wright, Roy Keane, Jill Scott, having a conversation about his career, more so his managerial career with Liverpool, the players, attracting players, how much money he could spend, the whole facts, what do you want to call it? Presser that he did, going against Man United and Ferguson and all that sort of stuff, going and managing Inter, Real Madrid and things like that. And there was one very particular part of this where he's speaking about the amount of money he was able to spend at Liverpool and why they couldn't compete at the top and why it took so long for them to sort of like get where they're going. And then he went into the whole Alonso situation when Alonso wanted to leave and all that sort of stuff, and then how things started to go south with Hicks and Gillett because the amount of money that was being offered for them to buy players and things like that. So in any case, just a little bit here just to go through. I thought it was an interesting conversation, but let's have a go at this.
You've got to do it together.
I don't think I was ever concerned about Liverpool winning the league in my whole time at United, apart from there was one point where you were getting better and better. You had Reina, you had Carra and Hippie, you had Mascherano, Alonso, you had Gerrard and Torres. And that was a spine. You were getting to a level that I thought was getting near and a little bit uncomfortable. And then it just went over the edge. You didn't seem to kick on. I think Alonso left maybe. I think Mascherano maybe left. I'm not quite sure the distance between those two.
No, it's just season after.
What happened there?
Alonso left 9-10. I think Mascherano, did he leave the season after or January or something like that? Went to Barca at that point. Yeah, sad days, man.
In terms of at that point
it's quite simple. When I went to Liverpool, they told me in 3 years' time we want to compete. Nobody was expecting to be there. Why we didn't?
So at the time, with the owners, it was all for competing. It wasn't about winning Premier Leagues. Yeah, when Klopp came to Liverpool, it was all about winning the Premier League, getting us up there, winning silverware. He even said it, I want to have one trophy or one title in 4 years' time. And that's what happened effectively with Rafa. It was very different. I thought it was Parish at the time who was one of the owners. I can't remember for sure. Memory's a bit fuzzy. But yeah, before Hicks and Gillett came in and pretty much almost fucked everything, Liverpool ending up in administration because of those two fuckwits. Yeah, it was peak. But yeah, only compete. Not to actually win something, just to compete.
Qualify for the Champions League. We finished 5th because we were in the Champions League already. And the motivation of the player was so much against Juventus, then I remember against Birmingham, I was pushing, and we drew, we lost, and then Everton was there.
So you said the league games they struggled to get up?
Yeah, because we lost concentration.
This is the first season. We didn't have
first season. Okay,
the first season.
Yeah.
But we spent 38 million. So considering the money of Cissé that Julian has the agreement. So and then Manchester United could spend 30 million in one player.
So you had a budget of 38 million?
No, my budget was 20.
20 million?
20. 6 years after, was 17 with Hicks and Gillett. 17. I have a business.
Bro, he had $20 million budget when he first got there, and then when Hicks and Gillett came through 6 years after the fact, so he came in 2004, so 6 years, in 2010 they said he got a budget of 17 million. What can you buy with 20 million, let alone 17 in this day and age without selling players and generating funds? But he'll go on to that as well.
Plan with 3 options, 20, 17, 15, and then I have my business plan with players on loan, players that we can buy.
How much was your budget would have been in your head?
At this
So I just said there was players at 20, players at 17, players at 15, looking at who's got what, agent fees and all that sort of stuff, the salaries, who you can loan, who can you sell, etc., etc.
What do you need, do you think, at that time?
No, the other teams, they could be talking about 60, 70 millions.
But could you have sold players and got that money, or no? Was that part of...
My business plan, it was very American, and I learned about that. So you have your squad, you have the salaries, and then you have players that you want to sell. And then more or less, always if you want to sell a player for 20, you put 15 because you know that maybe you will not get 20.
Yeah.
And then commission of the agent. Player that you want to send on loan and then you save the salaries, you put that. And then player that you want to buy and then you put the salaries and the commission of the agent and then you have a figure. So then depending on what they were giving to me, that was 17, then I could go to sign. And I will give you...
Who were the owners then, Rafa, in that first 3 years? No, before Hicks and Gillette.
David Morse.
Parry and...
David Morse and
Parry.
David Morse.
Okay, so
Parry and Moore, that's
they were
right.
great. No,
It's Parry and Moore, my bad.
but the budget was still quite low, basically.
yeah, because we didn't have the money.
Yeah.
So the chairman, he was telling me, we don't have the money to compete against the other teams, Chelsea, United. You have 75,000 fans,
No
and
money.
you have every
Come on,
year,
bro.
we have 44 at this time, 44,000. You have 50 million extra every year. That's it. So we have to compete. You think about that 40 months.
So you only had 50 million extra, you have to compete, but your budget was only 20 or 17 million. That's mad. And people say money is not really a factor in your success. No, money is a factor in your success. How much of it you have definitely matters, definitely counts. Obviously, if you can find good players, if you have a good coach, you can maybe get away with a couple of things to get the most out of certain players. But ultimately, without money, you're not really doing much.
Money coming to compete against the top sides here with a big money. We were going to... I have two things that you will like. Hicks and Gillette. I wanted to sign Jovetic. And
Fiorentina. He played against us, didn't he? Yeah.
And Jovetic
This is
was
mad.
16 millions. 16. Then in my head, I was selling players and I have 36 millions. Sorry, 34, because I spent 36. Then I say, I want to sign Jovetic. We don't have money. Christian Polo told me, we don't have money.
It's mad. He's selling players, he's generating funds, and they're telling him we have no money to buy players. And he wanted Stefan Jovetic, for 16 million. He ended up banging 2 goals against us, which is peak for Liverpool. Yeah, it pretty much sounds about right. There's a player that we wanted, we didn't buy him, we couldn't get him, whatever, and they bang against us. It's poetic.
Why? We don't have money. I cannot say on record why we don't have money. Then we went to play against Fiorentina and we lost 2-0 and Jovetic scored 2 goals. And I say to him,
that's the guy.
This is the player that we wanted to sign. And we didn't have money. So the point that we didn't have the money.
Just at that point, you couldn't go that extra bit
we
with
couldn't. And we have injuries. The last year we had so many injuries at the beginning. But also, I was signing the captain of Wales. Was playing for us.
Adam Ramsey.
Ramsey was playing
he
for
wanted
Cardiff.
to sign Ramsey.
We made an offer, 1.5 on bonuses. Cardiff was playing in the FA Cup. They said, no, it's like Steven Gerrard for us. Wait, and Rick Parry was saying, oh. Then we have to wait. I said, listen, we have to do it. 17 years old was. And then when we were going again to try to sign him, Arsene Wenger paid 5 million for him. We couldn't sign Ramsey.
5 million. So they had 1.5 million. And Arsenal came in for the 5 million and they bought Ramsey, and that's all it took. It took 3.5 million extra to buy a player. That's insane. But is that how tight our owners were at the time? Fuck me. I didn't even realize that's how bad they were. I knew they were bad, but like, this is comical levels of bad.
That's it. Gareth Bale, when he was 17, Southampton, 6 months after we were watching him, Tottenham paid 8 million, he was 17. So we couldn't compete. And we have to bring, and you were upset because obviously you are competitive and say, oh, you are bringing Ayala. We have to pay 250,000 euros for Ayala for the compensation. To sell him later on for 750, that was our business. We couldn't compete against the top side. Every year.
That's piss poor, man. That is piss poor. They go on to the Alonso thing. I don't want to make this a whole hour video, but like, that is piss poor, man. Imagine that you have this momentum going your way, you have this happening for you, and the club is telling you, nah, we only have 20 million to spend, and how many players can you buy that are decent for that amount of money? And then when you're selling players, how much can you actually get of that money back there? So if he says, well, I've got 20, I'm selling players, so I've got X amount of million to use, oh no, we don't have the money for it. I don't know what the fuck was happening at Liverpool at the time. Someone maybe more knowledgeable than me clearly can let me know. I mean, just because you're a fan of a club doesn't mean you have to know the whole history and all that sort of shit. I mean, granted, I was a teenager at the time, young adult, so I wasn't really paying that much attention to the ins and outs. And obviously, the information wasn't as accessible as it is now. I mean, it's still the not infamy, what do you call it? Well, the early days of the internet, you know, the mid 2000s when, you know, blogs were still popping up and things like that. So, yeah, it's peak. And look, if Rafa is telling the truth with everything that he's saying, then, you know, he must have done well to compete at the time to at least, you know, go the distance to some degree against Manchester United, and even talking about wanting to sign Vidic as well. But, you know, Manchester was more of an attractive area because of the international airport, or players going to London because Chelsea, because of London and things like that. So, yeah, well, not a good time to be a Liverpool fan back then. But I'll link it, of course, down below. Have a watch for yourselves. It was a very interesting watch. It went for what, hour and a half or something? Yeah, some hour and hour and 10 minutes, give or take. So yeah, do check it out. Even if you're not a Liverpool fan, just fascinating to get the insights of Rafa Benitez and his whole, what we say, his thought process and how he thinks as a manager and his whole philosophy and things like that. So it talks about tactics and whatever. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Yeah, Liverpool had no money to compete against the big dogs and missed out on many a good player, at least a decent player, because our owners were tight asses back then. Yeah. People that say money's in everything, money is not everything, but it sure does help a lot.